2 sisters, 1 vineyard, 2 letters promising everything to each of them, and a mother in a coma who holds all the answers. But what if the coma was a lie? What if everything, the letters, the sabotage, the family falling apart, was orchestrated by the one person they both trusted? My name is Chelsea Rossi, and this is the story of how my stepsister and I almost destroyed each other over an inheritance until we discovered we were both being played. My father died on a Sunday in September, during harvest season. Heart attack in the vineyard, surrounded by the Cabernet vines he'd planted 30 years ago. He collapsed between the rows, a cluster of grapes still in his hand. The vineyard manager found him 2 hours later. Too late. Dad was 68. Healthy, active, passionate about his work. His death made no sense. But grief rarely does. 2 weeks later, I sat in a lawyer's office in Napa with my stepsister Nina and our mother, well, my mother, Nina's stepmother, Elena Rossi. The vineyard's attorney, Marcus Webb, sat across from us with a thick folder of documents. "Thank you all for coming," Marcus said. "I know this is a difficult time. Antonio's death was a shock to everyone who knew him." My mother dabbed at her eyes with a tissue. She'd been crying constantly since Dad died. Nina sat beside her, holding her hand. I sat alone on the other side. That pretty much summed up our family dynamic. Nina and I were the same age, 28. Not twins, but close enough that people sometimes mistook us for sisters. Both tall, both dark-haired, both with our father's Italian features. The difference was blood. I was Antonio Rossi's biological daughter. Nina was the daughter of Elena's first husband, adopted by my father when he married Elena 15 years ago. Dad had loved Nina as his own, treated her exactly the same as me. Never made distinctions between his real daughter and his stepdaughter, but I'd always felt the difference. Nina was the interloper, the girl who came into our family and stole half my father's attention, half his love, half my inheritance. Antonio's will is straightforward, Marcus continued. His personal assets, the house, savings, investments, are left to his wife, Elena. The vineyard, however, is more complicated. I sat up straighter. The vineyard. Rossi Family Wines. 40 acres in Napa Valley. Premium Cabernet and Pinot Noir. Annual revenue of $3 million. That's what I cared about. That's what I'd worked for my entire life. Due to the business structure, Marcus said, the vineyard can only have one primary owner. Antonio's shares can't be easily divided. So, in his will, he specified that the vineyard should go to. He paused, looking uncomfortable. "Well, there's an issue." "What kind of issue?" I asked. Antonio left instructions that the vineyard should go to the daughter who is best suited to run it, but he didn't specify which daughter. He said you two should decide together, and if you couldn't decide, I was to use my judgment based on his guidance. "That's ridiculous," I said. "I'm his biological daughter. I've worked at the vineyard since I was 16. I have a degree in viticulture. The vineyard should be mine." "I've worked there just as long," Nina said quietly. "I handle all the marketing and sales. I built our distribution network. Dad always said the vineyard needed both of us." "Yes, but only one of you can be primary owner," Marcus said. "The other could stay on as an employee or partner, but final decisions, control of assets, the ability to take loans or sell, that all goes to the primary owner." "So what did Dad say?" I asked. "In his guidance to you, who did he want to have it?" Marcus looked even more uncomfortable. "That's the problem. He gave me 2 separate sets of instructions, on different dates, and they contradict each other." He pulled out 2 documents. In May, Antonio told me the vineyard should go to Chelsea, that she has the technical knowledge and the passion for winemaking that the business needs. I felt a surge of triumph. See, Dad chose me. But in August, just a month before he died, Antonio told me the vineyard should go to Nina, that she has the business acumen and people skills that the vineyard needs to grow. My triumph died. August? Why would he change his mind? I don't know. But both sets of instructions were given verbally, witnessed by me, and documented in my notes. Both are technically valid. "Then we need Mom to clarify," Nina said, looking at Elena. "Mom, you knew Dad better than anyone. Who did he want to have the vineyard?" Elena looked between us, tears streaming down her face. "I don't know. He never told me. Girls, please don't fight about this. Your father loved you both so much. He wouldn't want you tearing each other apart over..." She stopped mid-sentence, her eyes going wide. Her hand went to her chest. "Mom?" Nina said. Mom, are you okay? Elena's eyes rolled back. She collapsed sideways in her chair. Mom! Nina screamed. I was already dialing 911. Elena had suffered a stroke, a major one, affecting the left side of her brain. She was in a coma at Napa Valley Medical Center, unresponsive, hooked up to machines that breathed for her and monitored her vitals. The doctors said it could be days, weeks, or months before she woke up, if she woke up. Nina was devastated. She spent every day at the hospital, holding Elena's hand, talking to her, begging her to wake up. I visited too, but less frequently. I loved my mother, but I also had a vineyard to run. Harvest was in full swing, and someone needed to make decisions. That someone, I decided, should be me. You can't just take over, Nina said when I announced I was moving into the owner's office at the vineyard. Marcus hasn't decided who inherits yet. Someone needs to manage things while Mom is in the hospital. I'm the winemaker. I know the operations. And I know the business side. We should make decisions together. Fine. We'll consult each other. But ultimately, someone needs to have final authority, and that should be whoever Dad intended to inherit. Which was me, according to his May instructions. He changed his mind in August. Or maybe you're lying about that. Nina's face went white. How dare you? I would never. Wouldn't you? You've always been jealous that I'm Dad's real daughter. Now you see a chance to take what should be mine. I loved Dad just as much as you did. But he wasn't really your father, was he? Not by blood. And blood matters, Nina, whether you want to admit it or not. It was a cruel thing to say. I knew it even as the words left my mouth. But I was angry, grieving, and terrified of losing the one thing I'd worked my entire life for. Nina stared at me, tears in her eyes. Dad was more of a father to me than my biological father ever was. He chose to be my father. That means something. It means you're grateful, but it doesn't mean you deserve the vineyard. Nina turned and walked away without another word. That night, I stayed late at the vineyard, reviewing harvest projections and making notes for the winemaking team. Around 11 p.m., I heard a sound outside. A crash, like metal hitting concrete. I went to the window. In the moonlight, I could see someone moving between the fermentation tanks. A dark figure, too far away to identify. Hey! I shouted. What are you doing? The figure ran, disappearing into the vineyard rows. I grabbed a flashlight and went outside. Where the figure had been standing, I found one of our pumping hoses cut clean through. Deliberate sabotage. Who would do this? And why? The next morning, I discovered more damage. 3 fermentation tanks had been contaminated. Someone had dumped chemicals into them overnight, ruining thousands of gallons of wine. This is going to cost us at least $200,000. Our winemaker, Tom Cabrera, said grimly. Maybe more. That was our premium Cabernet. Who has access to the facility at night? I asked. Anyone with a key? You, Nina, your mother, me, the vineyard manager Diego, a few of the senior staff. Change all the locks. Today, and install security cameras. I want to know who's doing this. You think it's someone on the inside? I don't know what to think, but someone is trying to hurt this vineyard, and I'm going to find out who. I called Nina to tell her about the sabotage. She answered on the 4th ring, her voice tired. What is it, Chelsea? Someone broke into the winery last night. Contaminated 3 fermentation tanks. We lost our premium cab. There was a pause. Oh my God. How much damage? About 200,000, maybe more. Do you know who did it? Not yet. But Nina, I need to ask you something. Where were you last night around 11 p.m.? Another pause, longer this time? Are you seriously asking if I sabotaged our own vineyard? Someone did. Someone with access. I was at the hospital with Mom all night. You can check with the nurses. I will. Chelsea, I can't believe you're accusing me of this. We're family. Are we? Because lately it feels like we're enemies fighting over a prize. Maybe that's because you're treating me like an enemy. Nina's voice hardened. I'll be at the vineyard in an hour. We need to review security and figure out who's behind this. Together, whether you like it or not. She hung up. Nina and I worked together over the next few days, investigating the sabotage and trying to keep the vineyard running during the crucial harvest period. It wasn't easy. We disagreed about everything: which grapes to harvest first, how much to spend on new equipment, whether to accept a major distributor's offer to expand our market. We need to grow, Nina argued. This distributor could triple our sales in 2 years. At the cost of our premium brand, I countered. They want us to increase production, which means lower quality. Dad built this vineyard on quality, not quantity. Dad also wanted the vineyard to be profitable and sustainable. We can't stay small forever. We're not small, we're boutique. There's a difference. You're so stubborn, and you're so willing to compromise what makes us special. We were fighting in Dad's old office, now contested territory, that neither of us wanted to cede to the other when Nina noticed something. "What's that?" she asked, pointing to the bookshelf. Behind a row of wine journals, there was a gap in the wood, a hidden compartment. We pulled the books aside. Inside the compartment was a manila envelope. Nina reached for it, but I grabbed it first. "I'll open it." "Why do you get to open it?" "Because I saw it first. I saw the compartment." We glared at each other, then Nina sighed. "Fine. Open it together. On 3. Fine. 1, 2, 3. We opened the envelope together. Inside were 2 letters, both in our father's handwriting, both addressed to us. One said, "To Chelsea" on the front. The other said, "To Nina." We stared at them. "He left us letters," Nina whispered. "About the vineyard," I said. "It has to be. He's finally telling us who should inherit. We should read them together." "Agreed." I opened mine. Nina opened hers. We read in silence. "Dear Chelsea, if you're reading this, I'm gone. I'm sorry I won't be there to see you run the vineyard, but I know you'll do an incredible job. The vineyard is yours. You've earned it through years of hard work, dedication, and passion for winemaking. You understand the land, the vines, the craft. No one can make wine the way you can. I trust you to carry on the Rossi family legacy. Make me proud. Love, Dad." I looked up at Nina. Her face was pale. "What does yours say?" I asked. She handed it to me wordlessly. "Dear Nina, if you're reading this, I'm gone. I'm sorry I won't be there to see you run the vineyard, but I know you'll do an incredible job. The vineyard is yours. You've earned it through years of hard work, dedication, and building our brand. You understand business, people, growth. No one can sell our wines the way you can. I trust you to carry on the Rossi family legacy. Make me proud. Love, Dad." Nearly identical, both promising the vineyard, both saying yours. "I don't understand," Nina said. "Why would he write 2 different letters? Maybe he changed his mind. Mine could be older. Or yours could be older. We don't know. The handwriting looks the same in both. Same pen, same paper. So he wrote them around the same time. But why?" We stared at each other, both confused, both holding letters that promised us everything, both no closer to an answer than before. Over the next week, the sabotage escalated. Someone poisoned an entire section of Pinot Noir vines, about 3 acres worth. The grapes shriveled on the vine, worthless. Equipment started breaking down. The tractor's brake lines were cut. The irrigation system was hacked, flooding one field and leaving another to dry out. And every night, around 11 p.m., someone would appear on the property. A dark figure moving through the vineyard, always staying just out of range of our new security cameras. "Whoever this is knows where the cameras are," Diego, our vineyard manager, said. "They're avoiding them deliberately." "Then we need more cameras. Hidden ones. That's expensive. So is replacing poisoned vines and broken equipment. Do it." Nina and I were both exhausted, running on coffee and determination. We'd temporarily called a truce to deal with the sabotage, but the underlying tension remained. Who would inherit the vineyard? What had Dad really wanted? And who was trying to destroy everything he'd built? One evening, after a particularly long day, Nina and I sat on the porch of the main house, the house where I'd grown up, where Nina had lived since Elena married Dad. "I miss him," Nina said quietly. "Every day. I walk through the vineyard and I expect to see him there, checking the vines, tasting the grapes, telling terrible jokes." "Me too," I admitted. "He was supposed to be here for another 20 years. Supposed to see me take over. Supposed to walk me down the aisle someday. Supposed to meet his grandchildren. He would have been a great grandfather. The best." We sat in silence. 2 women who'd lost the same man but grieved him differently. "Chelsea," Nina said finally, "what if we're both wrong?" "About what?" "About Dad choosing one of us. What if the letters, the contradictory instructions to Marcus, what if it was all intentional? Why would Dad intentionally create confusion? Maybe to force us to work together, to figure it out ourselves, to prove we could run the vineyard as partners instead of rivals. I thought about it. It was possible. Dad had always valued cooperation over competition. He'd often said the best wines came from collaboration between winemaker and vineyard manager, between tradition and innovation. If that's true, I said slowly, then we're failing his test. We're fighting instead of cooperating. We're scared, Nina said. Scared of losing the thing we both love. Scared of losing our connection to Dad. The vineyard isn't Dad, I know, but it's the closest thing we have left to him. We looked at each other, really looked, maybe for the first time since Dad died. What if we tried, I said. Really tried to run it together. Equal partners. Could you do that? Share control? Could you? Nina smiled slightly. I don't know, but maybe we should try. For Dad. For Dad, I agreed. Our tentative partnership was immediately tested. 2 days later, we received an offer on the vineyard. An unsolicited offer from a major wine conglomerate, Pacific Wines Corporation. They wanted to buy Rossi family wines for $18 million. We're not selling, I said immediately when the lawyer called. Wait, Nina said. Let's at least look at the offer. 18 million is a lot of money. It's not about money, it's about legacy. Chelsea, we're losing money every day with this sabotage. The vineyard is being destroyed. Maybe selling is the smart choice. Selling is giving up. Dad would never give up. Dad's dead, Nina's voice cracked. And I'm tired of pretending we can just carry on like nothing's changed. Everything's changed. Maybe it's time to accept that. You want to sell? I want to consider all our options. Don't you? I stared at her. This is what you wanted all along, isn't it? You never wanted to run the vineyard. You wanted to cash out. That's not fair, isn't it? You're not a Rossi by blood, Nina. Maybe you never really cared about the family legacy. How dare you? If Dad knew you wanted to sell, he'd be heartbroken. Nina's eyes filled with tears. You don't know what Dad would want. Neither of us do. That's the whole problem. She was right, but I was too angry to admit it. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about the offer, about Nina's willingness to consider selling, about Dad's contradictory letters and instructions. Nothing made sense. Around midnight, I decided to visit Mom at the hospital. Maybe being near her would help. Maybe somehow she'd wake up and tell us what to do. I drove to Napa Valley Medical Center and went up to the ICU. The nurse at the desk recognized me. She's stable, the nurse said. No change, but no decline either. Can I sit with her for a while? Of course. I went into Mom's room. She lay motionless, breathing tube in her throat, monitors beeping softly. She looked small in the hospital bed, fragile. I took her hand. Mom, I don't know what to do. Nina and I are falling apart. Someone's destroying the vineyard. We got an offer to sell, and part of me wonders if we should just take it and walk away. Tell me what to do. Please. No response. Of course not. I stayed for about an hour, just sitting there, hoping for a miracle that didn't come. Finally, I stood to leave. As I did, I noticed something on the table beside Mom's bed. A phone. Mom's phone, which had been in her purse when she collapsed. I picked it up. It wasn't locked. Mom had never been good with technology, often left her phone accessible. I knew I shouldn't snoop. But something made me open her text messages. What I found made my blood run cold. Messages between Mom and someone named Ray. Recent messages. From the day before her stroke, Ray. Property assessment complete. Vineyard worth 22M if sold quickly, 25M plus if we wait for market improvement. Elena, need to sell fast. Girls are getting suspicious. How much time do we have? Ray, if we devalue property through sabotage, we can justify quick sale at 18M. I have buyer lined up. You're cut 8M after expenses. Elena, not enough. Need at least 10M. I've been embezzling for years. If they audit books, I'm finished. Ray, then we accelerate timeline. More sabotage. Make them desperate. They'll beg to sell. Elena, what about the girls? Ray, keep them fighting each other. Long as they're focused on inheritance dispute, they won't notice what you're doing. I stared at the phone, my hands shaking. Mom, our mother. She was behind everything. The sabotage. The contradictory letters. Maybe even Dad's death. She wasn't in a coma. She was. I looked at the bed. At the woman lying there, breathing steadily, monitors showing normal brain activity for someone supposedly unconscious. I walked closer, looked at her face. Her eyes were closed, her expression peaceful. But as I watched, I saw something. A tiny movement. Her left eye twitched, just slightly, like she was trying very hard to keep it closed. "You're awake," I whispered. "You're faking." Elena's eyes snapped open. For a moment, we just stared at each other. Then she yanked the breathing tube out of her throat. It wasn't even connected to anything real, I realized. Probably just a prop. She sat up, her voice hoarse but clear. "How did you figure it out?" "Your phone. The messages with Ray." "Mom, what have you done?" "What I had to do," Elena said. "The vineyard is dying, Chelsea. Antonio ran it like a passion project, not a business. We were hemorrhaging money for years. I tried to tell him, but he wouldn't listen. So I handled it myself. By embezzling, by keeping us afloat. But then Antonio started asking questions, wanted to audit the books, so I had to speed up my timeline. "Did you kill him?" The words came out as a whisper. Elena looked away. "I didn't kill him, but I may have. Encouraged his heart condition. Extra stress. His medication slightly altered, nothing obvious. Just enough to weaken him until nature took its course. I felt sick. You murdered Dad. I freed him from a failing business he was too stubborn to let go of. And I set up a situation where you and Nina would be so busy fighting each other that you'd eventually beg to sell. Then I'd take my share and disappear before anyone discovered the embezzlement. The letters from Dad, the contradictory, instructions to Marcus, you forged those. Antonio's handwriting wasn't hard to copy. I've been signing his name on documents for years. And the COMA? Insurance. If I was unconscious, no one could question me about finances or decisions. I could manipulate everything from the hospital through Ray, my partner, while seeming innocent and helpless. Ray, who's sabotaging the vineyard, devaluing it technically. So when Pacific Wines offers $18 million, which seems generous for a struggling vineyard, you and Nina will jump at it. I take my share as surviving spouse. Ray takes his cut, and everyone wins. Except Nina and me. We lose everything. You lose a money pit. You'll thank me eventually. I back toward the door. I'm going to the police. You'll go to prison for this. Elena smiled, a cold, calculating smile I'd never seen before. Really? With what evidence? Text messages? I'll say you faked them. The forged letters? I'll say you wrote them to frame me. The embezzlement? I'll claim Antonio knew and approved everything. And the murder? She made air quotes. There's no proof of anything. Just a heartbroken daughter making wild accusations against her grieving mother. Nina will believe me. Nina loves me. She'll never believe I could do this. And between the two of you, who looks more suspicious? You, who's been aggressive about taking sole control? Or me, who's been lying helpless in a hospital bed? She had a point. A horrible, terrifying point. I ran. I drove straight to Nina's apartment in Napa, arriving at 1 a.m. and pounding on her door until she answered. "Chelsea? What's wrong? Mom's awake. She's been faking the coma, and she's behind everything, the sabotage, the contradictory letters, maybe even Dad's death." Nina stared at me like I'd lost my mind. "What are you talking about?" I told her everything. The text messages, the conversation with Elena, the embezzlement, the plan to force us to sell. "This is insane," Nina said. "Mom would never. I have proof." Her phone, the text messages with Ray. Let me see. I pulled out my phone, where I'd photographed the messages before leaving the hospital. Nina read them, her face going progressively paler. "Oh my God," she whispered. "Mom's been embezzling? For years. And she's been sabotaging the vineyard to devalue it so we'd sell. Nina, she orchestrated everything to pit us against each other. The letters from Dad. They were fake? All fake. Mom forged them." Nina sank onto her couch, looking devastated. So Dad never chose one of us over the other. He never wrote those contradictory instructions. What did Marcus's original note say? Before the guidance from Dad? Nina thought back. Just that the vineyard should go to whichever daughter could best run it. Working together, I repeated. Not one or the other, together. We stared at each other as the realization hit. Dad wanted us to run it as partners, Nina said. Equal. Partners. That was his plan all along. And Mom sabotaged it. Created fake evidence to make us fight so we'd be too distracted to notice what she was doing. We have to stop her. How? She's right, most of this is hard to prove. And she'll claim we're making it up. Nina stood, determination replacing shock. Then we need more evidence. We need to catch her and Ray in the act. And we need to prove Dad's real wishes. How? Dad kept meticulous records. If he wanted us to run the vineyard together, he would have documented it properly. We need to find his real will, his real instructions. Where? Nina thought. The vineyard. Dad's office. There's a safe in the floor under his desk. Did you know about it? No. He showed me once, years ago. Said it was where he kept the most important documents. Things that couldn't be lost or stolen. Do you know the combination? It's Mom and Dad's anniversary. He told me in case anything ever happened to him. We looked at each other. Let's go, I said. We arrived at the vineyard at 2 a.m. The place was dark, silent except for the sound of wind through the vines. We went into Dad's office. Nina rolled the desk aside, revealing a section of floor that looked slightly different from the rest. She pried up the floorboard, revealing a safe. She entered the combination their anniversary, June 15th. The safe opened. Inside were documents, the real will, property deeds, insurance policies, and a letter addressed to both of us, to Chelsea and Nina. If you're reading this, I'm gone, and you're probably fighting about the vineyard. Stop. I don't want one of you to have the vineyard. I want both of you to have it, together, equal partners. Chelsea, you're an incredible winemaker. You understand the craft, the art, the soul of what we do. But you need to learn the business side, how to grow sustainably, how to think beyond just making perfect wine. Nina, you're a brilliant businesswoman. You understand markets, sales, strategy. But you need to learn the craft side, what makes our wines special, why quality matters more than quantity. You need each other. The vineyard needs both of you. I've structured the will so you'll inherit equally, as full partners. I hope by the time you find this, you've already figured out that working together is better than fighting over who gets control. I love you both, equally, completely. You're both my daughters. Never doubt that. Dad, Nina, and I read it together, tears streaming down both our faces. He wanted us to work together, Nina whispered. We've been fighting over nothing. Mom created the fake letters, the contradictory instructions, all to keep us divided. While she embezzled and planned to sell everything out from under us. We looked at each other. We need to stop her, I said. Tonight. How? We set a trap. Get her to confess everything on record. Then we go to the police with actual evidence. We called Elena's phone. She answered on the second ring, her voice perfectly mimicking someone just waking from a coma, weak and confused. Hello? Mom, it's Nina. Don't talk, just listen. Chelsea and I know everything. We found the text messages. We know about the embezzlement, the sabotage, the fake coma. Silence. Then Elena's voice changed, became hard and cold. Where are you? At the vineyard. Chelsea and I are here together. You two actually stopped fighting long enough to work together? I'm impressed. Meet us here. 30 minutes. Come alone or we call the police. And tell them what? You have no real proof. Don't we? Nina said. We have your text messages with Ray. We have Dad's real will. And we have accounting records showing years of embezzlement. We've been through the books, Mom. We know exactly what you did. Another pause. What do you want? To understand. To hear you explain why you destroy everything Dad built. Why you turn us against each other. 30 minutes? Elena said, I'll be there. She hung up. Nina and I looked at each other. Think she'll come? She has to. She needs to know what we've found, what we can prove. And when she gets here, I held up my phone. We record everything. Get her to confess. Then we called Detective Morrison. He investigated some of the sabotage. He'll listen to us if we have evidence. Elena arrived exactly 30 minutes later, pulling up in her BMW like she'd never been in a hospital at all. She walked into Dad's office where Nina and I were waiting, and for a moment, the three of us just stared at each other. You're not in a coma, I said. Obviously not. I was never in a coma. Bribed a doctor, faked the stroke symptoms, played the part. It wasn't hard. Why? Nina asked, her voice breaking. Why would you do this to us? To Dad? Money? Elena said simply. Always money. Your father was a brilliant winemaker, but a terrible businessman. He plowed every penny back into the vineyard, living this fantasy that quality would somehow magically equal profit. Meanwhile, we were drowning in debt. So you embezzled. I saved us. For years, I managed the books, moved money around, kept us afloat while Antonio played vintner, but then he started asking questions, wanting audits. I couldn't let him discover what I'd done. So you killed him, I said. Elena shrugged. I helped along a condition he already had. Stress, altered medications, some substances that weakened his heart. It took months, but eventually nature took its course. Heart attack in the vineyard, very poetic, really. You're a monster, Nina whispered. I'm a survivor, and I taught you both to be survivors too, or at least I tried. By turning us against each other, I said. By making us think Dad chose one of us over the other. By giving you both motivation to fight for control. I needed you divided, distracted. If you'd worked together from the start, you might have noticed the embezzlement. But while you were busy hating each other, I could move forward with the plan, sabotage the vineyard through Ray, devalue it, get you both desperate enough to accept a lowball offer, then disappear with my share before anyone could investigate the books. It's not going to work, Nina said. We found Dad's real will. We know he wanted us to work together as equal partners. So what? I'm still majority owner through spousal inheritance. I can force a sale regardless of what you two want. Not if you're in prison for murder and embezzlement, I said. Elena smiled. And how exactly do you plan to prove any of this? Text messages? I'll say they were faked. The embezzlement? I'll claim Antonio knew and approved. His death? Natural causes, according to the coroner. You have nothing. We have this conversation, I said, holding up my phone. Recorded. You just confessed to everything. Elena's smile disappeared. She lunged for my phone, but Nina stepped between us. You're not taking anything else from us, Nina said. We've already uploaded the recording to the cloud. It's backed up. Even if you destroy the phone, the evidence exists. Elena stared at us, calculating. Then she pulled out her own phone. Ray, I need you at the vineyard. Now. We have a problem. 10 minutes later, a truck pulled up. A large man in his 50s got out. Ray, presumably. These are the girls? He asked Elena. Yes, they've been snooping. They have evidence? What kind of evidence? Recordings? Text messages? The real will. Ray looked at us, then at Elena. We agreed nothing violent. I'll do sabotage, forgery, even fraud. But I don't hurt people. They're going to destroy everything, Elena said. If they go to the police, we both go to prison. Then we leave. Now. Cut our losses and run. We're so close. The buyer is ready to close. One more week and we'd have had millions. One more week and we'll be in handcuffs, Ray said. This is done. I'm out. He walked back to his truck. Elena screamed, You can't leave. We're partners. We're partners. Past tense. Ray drove away. Elena stood there, alone, her plan falling apart. It's over, Mom, Nina said quietly. Turn yourself in. Maybe they'll go easier on you if you cooperate. Easier? Elena laughed bitterly. I'll spend the rest of my life in prison. For what? Trying to save a failing business? Trying to provide for my family? You murdered Dad, I said. You embezzled. You destroyed people's lives. That's not providing for family. That's greed. Elena looked between us. You two think you're so righteous, so pure, but you were both willing to destroy each other for this vineyard. You're more like me than you want to admit. Maybe we were, Nina said. But we figured out what Dad really wanted. We chose each other over the vineyard. That's the difference. Sirens in the distance. I'd texted Detective Morrison while Elena was focused on Ray. You called the police? Elena said flatly. We had to, I said. I'm sorry, Mom. I wish you'd been the person I thought you were. I was never that person, Elena said. I was always this. You just didn't want to see it. The police arrested Elena that night. She didn't resist. Ray was arrested the next day trying to cross into Mexico. He cut a deal testimony against Elena in exchange for reduced charges. 10 years for conspiracy and fraud, eligible for parole in 7. Elena refused to plead. Went to trial insisting she'd done nothing wrong. The jury disagreed. Guilty on all counts. First-degree murder. The medical examiner exhumed Dad's body and found evidence of long-term poisoning. Embezzlement. Fraud. Conspiracy. Life in prison without parole. At sentencing, Elena looked at Nina and me one last time. I did everything for you, she said, to give you options. to give you freedom from your father's failing dream, and this is how you repay me. You murdered our father, Nina said. We didn't owe you anything after that. Elena was led away. We never saw her again. The financial aftermath was complicated. The embezzlement had indeed put the vineyard in serious debt, over $3 million missing from accounts, most of it spent on Elena's lifestyle cars, jewelry, travel, and paying Ray. The sabotage had cost another $500,000 in damages. We were broke, deeply in debt, facing the possibility of bankruptcy. But we had each other. We could sell, Nina said one evening as we reviewed the books. Take whatever we can get and walk away. Is that what you want? I asked. No, but I don't want you to lose everything either. Then we don't sell. We rebuild. Together. How? We're millions in debt. We get a loan. We restructure. We work harder than we've ever worked before. Nina smiled. Equal partners? Equal partners. We shook on it. 5 years after Elena's conviction, Rossi Family Wines was thriving. We'd paid off the debt through a combination of hard work, smart marketing, and a few excellent vintages that won international awards. Our Cabernet had taken gold at the San Francisco International Wine Competition. Our Pinot Noir was served at the White House. Our brand was stronger than ever. More importantly, Nina and I had become true partners, true sisters. I handled winemaking and vineyard management. Nina handled business operations and sales. We made decisions together, trusted each other, balanced each other's weaknesses. Dad had been right. We needed each other. The vineyard needed both of us. We stood together in the vineyard one evening in September, 5 years to the day after Dad died. Think he'd be proud? Nina asked. I think he'd be amazed we didn't kill each other, I said, and we both laughed. Seriously, though, would he be proud? Yes, I said. Not just of the wine or the business, of us, of the fact that we figured out what he already knew, that we're better together. I miss him, Nina said. Every day, me too, but he's here. In the vines, in the wine, in everything we do. We walked back today, the winery as the sun set over the valley, two sisters bound, not by blood but by choice, by struggle, by shared grief and hard-won trust. Dad's legacy wasn't just the vineyard, it was us. Together. And that was the inheritance that really mattered. This is Chelsea Rossi, reminding you that the people who try to divide you are often the ones with the most to hide. My mother almost destroyed my relationship with Nina because it served her purposes. She manufactured conflict, forged documents, and turned us into enemies, all so she could steal what wasn't hers. But Nina and I found our way back to each other, found the truth, and built something better than what we'd lost. If this story resonated with you, please like and subscribe for more stories about family, betrayal, and finding your way through to the other side. Leave a comment. Have you ever discovered someone was manipulating you against someone else? How did you figure it out? How did you heal? Remember, the people who want you fighting are often the ones who benefit from the chaos. Trust can be rebuilt. Partnerships can be formed. And sometimes the family you choose is stronger than the family you're born into.